This is Jessica Dunn, and we are going to discuss modified internal rate of return. We've talked about how the internal rate of return can have problems because it assumes that those intermediate cash flows earned during a project's life are reinvested at the internal rate of return. That may be over exaggerating your ability to earn yields because once you accepted that great project, there may not be another great project that comes along that earns as high of a yield as the one you've already accepted. So it's not always appropriate to assume that you can reinvest those intermediate cash flows at the internal rate of return. To fix that, we can use the modified internal rate of return. So this would allow you to assume that those intermediate cash flows would be reinvested at the weighted average cost of capital. It also avoids the problem of multiple internal rates of return. So modified internal rate of return is better than internal rate of return. So let's look at these projects that we've been doing. We have project A that costs $42,000, yields $14,000 a year for 5 years, and project B costs $45,000, yields $28,000 the first year, $12,000 the second year, and $10,000 in years 3 through 5. So the first step, we're going to use the net present value to find the present value of the cash inflows. The second step, we find the future value of all of these cash inflows, and we set our discount rate equal to our reinvestment rate. Now for step 3, we are going to enter the present value as the cost of the project. So for project A, that would be a negative $42,000. And for the future value, we enter in the future value of those intermediate cash flows reinvested at the cost of capital. Then we find the present value of that. We solve for IY. If you have the TI-83, then I've provided the steps for you for that, but I think most of us have the financial calculator. So at this point, we set the present value equal to the net present value. Our discount rate in this example was 10% because that was our cost of capital. We had 5 years, payment of 0, and that gives us a future value of $90,066.81. So then we set the present value equal to the cost. So here for project B, that was a negative $45,000. Future value equals that $90,066.81 from step 2. We still have 5 years, and we calculate our IY. So our modified internal rate of return would be that from that third step. So let's do this together. So step 1, we use net present value to find the present value of all cash inflows. So we use our cash flow register. Let's do this for project A first. Cash flow at time period 0, 0, because we're only looking at the cash inflows at this point. Cash flow at time period 1 is $14,000, and that has a frequency of 5. So we solve for net present value. So let's put that in, clear your work. Cash flow at time period 0 is 0. Cash flow at time period 1 is $14,000. And that occurs 5 times. Net present value, discount rate of 10%. We get $53,071. So now step 2, we find the future value of all those cash flows, and we use the reinvestment rate. So here we say that the present value is equal to the net present value we calculated, that $53,071. The future value is what we're going to solve for. Our IY is that reinvestment rate, the 10%. Our N is 5. Let's see, our payment is 0. So let's solve for future value. So here's our screen from before. If I just push clear once, it will save the number, and then I could plug it into our present value without retyping. 10% is the discount rate. We have 5 years, and we have no payments. Let's compute our future value. And we get $85,471.40. Remember that your calculator does have where you have to have the either the present value or the future value is negative. So step 3 says now we enter the present value as, this was step 1, step 2, step 3. The present value is equal to the cost of the project, so that negative 42,000. Future value was our step 2 answer, and we're going to solve for IY. So we still have 5 years, and we have no payments. Now either your present value or your future value is going to have to be negative, so I'm just going to choose to use the absolute value of that future value we calculated in step 2. So our future value was $85,471.14. Our present value is the $42,000 cost. We have 5 years and no payment. Let's compute our IY, and we get 15.27%. That is our modified internal rate of return. 15.27. So now let's do the same thing for project B. So for B, the first step, we use our cash flow register, but we only enter in the cash inflows. So cash flow at 0 is 0, cash flow at time period 1, 28,000, cash flow at time period 2 is 12,000, and cash flow at time period 3 is 10,000 with a frequency of 3. And we solve for the present value of that. So our net present value that we're going to get is $55,924. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and calculate this. We need a cash flow register. We're going to clear that out. Cash flow at time period 0 we ignore. Cash flow at time period 1 is 28,000. Cash flow at time period 2, 12,000. Cash flow at time period 3 is 10,000 with a frequency of 3. Use the net present value, find the present value with a discount of 10, and we get $55,924. So now step 2 says that we set this equal to our present value. Our discount rate is 10%. We have 5 years, and our payment is 0. So let's calculate our future value, and we get $90,066.80. So step 2. Our present value was equal to step 1, the net present value from there. Our discount rate is 10%. We have 5 years and no payments. And we get a future value, I'm just using the absolute value of this, $90,066. So I'll move up here for step 3 since I ran out of room. Step 3, we set the present value equal to our cost, to negative 45,000. We have 5 years and our payment is 0, and we solve for IY. And our future value is equal to this $90,066. But again, we're using the absolute value of this. So I'm going to plug that in for the future value. Present value is a 45,000 negative. We have no payment and 5 years. Let's compute IY, and we get 14.89% as our modified internal rate of return. So using the modified internal rate of return, we see that project A is better than project B. So it's giving us the correct ratings. Now I want to show you a feature that's available on the BA2 Plus, the professional edition. Now I don't think it's worth the extra $30 just for this class for the professional edition, but if you're going to do this for a living, it's for sure worth it. So our cash flow, if we put in the cash flows for project B, it costs 45,000, 28,000, 12,000, and 10,000 3 times. We push the IRR button, push compute, and then we scroll down. It asks us what the reinvestment rate is, and we can push 10%, and it will give us our modified internal rate of return here. But again, this function is only available in the professional edition. So your modified internal rate of return for project B was 14.89%. So using modified internal rate of return, project A is better than project B. So it gives you the same rankings as net present value.